Hello, my dear students and the rest of the learners. Welcome to part 16 of an 18-part series of tutorials in applying spreadsheet using Microsoft Excel. In this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate on how you can validate data during its entry in a worksheet. My name is MemGM, or you can simply call me Emily Swap. What is input validation? Input validation is a situation where you ensure that the data that is entered by the user in a worksheet meets the required criteria, or it is within the required boundaries and limitations. Therefore, to ensure that a user does not enter invalid data, it is important to set the validation criteria. An error message is displayed when data that violates this rule is entered. To set data validation, you do the following. Number one, you highlight the range of cells to validate. Then number two, on the data menu, click Data Validation drop-down list button. Number three, select Data Validation and a Data Validation dialog box is displayed. Number four, click the Settings tab and select a validation criteria. For example, whole number. Number five, make the necessary selections for the options that will be displayed based on the validation criteria that you will have chosen. Number six, to display an input message, you click Input Message tab. Then you type the title and the message to be displayed and check Show Input Message when cell is selected. Number seven, to display an error alert, you click on Error Alert tab and set the error alert in terms of style, title, and error message. Number eight, to circle invalid data, you click on Data Validation drop-down list box and click on Circle Invalid Data. Number nine, to clear validation circles, you click on Clear Validation Circles under the Data Validation list box. Number 10, to clear validation settings, you click on Clear All under Data Validation dialog box. Finally, you click on OK. The following is therefore a demonstration on how to validate input data in a workbook called Emily Swap College Term 2 results. So, if, for example, we wanted to regulate and control the values or scores that the user will enter in this worksheet, then we need to set some validation criteria. Now, the cells and the ICT level are supposed to contain the scores that the students have attained in ICT unit. In the real sense, the limit for the highest score that a student can score in any of the units is 100%. And for that reason, we cannot have somebody entering a score for a student in ICT unit that is beyond 100. So the scores for ICT, for operating systems OS, for SP unit, and for CSK units must be controlled in such a manner that the value that is going to be entered by the user will be between a score of 0 to 100. If the user enters a value that is not a score, that is not a number, for example, a letter. Then in that case, the spreadsheet, the worksheet should not accept that kind of an entry because that is not a score. Secondly, if the user keys in a value that is beyond 100, that value should not be accepted, and an error message should be displayed indicating that the values entered, the scores entered for a single unit should not be beyond 100. So how do we set this kind of a criteria? This is what we do. Let's set validation, data validation for the cells that will contain the scores. So these cells span from D3 for the first student to D13. So you have to select those cells. Let me select the cells in which entry will be made. So I'll click the first cell, that is cell D3, where the first score will be entered for the first student. Then, while pressing your left mouse button down, select the cells within that range up to the last student, who is Mora Silas. And then do the same. Continue moving your mouse button to the last cell. So I have selected the cells that are supposed to hold the scores that will be entered by the user. For ICT, for every student, OS for every student, SP for every student, and CSK for every student. Once you've selected those cells that you want to validate data for, you click on Data tab. Once you click on Data tab, you look for Data Validation. So this is our Data Validation button. So we click on Data Validation. What do we want to do? Do we want to circle invalid data? Do we want it to clear validation circles? Or we want to perform or set the criteria for data validation? Yes, we want to validate our data entry, and therefore we click on data validation. Once you have clicked on data validation, a data validation dialog box like this one will appear. So you click on settings. Under settings, below validation criteria, you specify what you want to allow. So under allow, you click this list box here. So what do you want to allow? You want to allow any value? Do you want to allow a whole number? Do you want to allow a decimal, a list, a date, time, text length, custom? No. What we want to allow is a score, which should be a whole number. So under allow, I'll click allow whole number. Now, what will be the range for our values? So under data, you click this list box here and specify what you want to allow. So you want to allow whole number between what and what? In our case, we are going to allow whole numbers between 0 and 100. So I'll choose the option for equal or greater than, that is greater than or equal to 0, greater than or equal to 0. Why? Why choose that? It's because a student may score a 0 or a value that is greater than 0. So greater than or equal to greater than or equal to, minimum 0. So I'll choose 0 there. Greater than or equal to, minimum of 0. Greater than or equal to, minimum of 0. Then under input message, so click on input message tab. Under input message tab, I'll tick on show input message when cell is selected. So what message should be displayed when a cell is selected? So under title, I will type required score. Then the message will be enter a score ranging between 0 and 100. Then under error alert, what should happen if a wrong value is entered? So I'll click on show error alert after invalid data is entered. The style should be stop. The title should be wrong score. Wrong score entered. And then the message will be kindly enter a score ranging between 0 and 100. So let's see what we have said. Remember, we have said under settings, you specify your criteria. And the criteria is, and allow, you specify what to allow. And what we are allowing in our case is a whole number. Then under data, specify the type of data you are going to accommodate. And in our case, we have said it is greater than or equal to 0. Now let's look at this. If we say greater than or equal to 0, as we have done, you will see that the only option we have is to set the minimum value. But how will we tell, how will the spreadsheet tell that the maximum score should be 100? So is greater than or equal to the best criteria? No. Let's change the criteria. And the criteria will be between what? Between 0 and 100. Good. You can see the importance of setting the criteria. If we left it as just greater than or equal to 0, it will be any score that is greater than or equals to 0. That can be any value. The maximum can be any number. 1,000, 1 million, 2 million, etc. If we choose not between is, or that would mean that no value that is entered should be accepted if it is between a certain range. If we choose equal to, it means that the value that will be accepted is only a value that is equal to the one required. And the same applies to not equal to, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So in our case, is between. Our whole number should be between a score of 0 and maximum of 100. And the input message, this is the message that will be displayed whenever the user will click on any cell to guide him or her on what is required. And the title of this message is required score. And the input message that will be displayed is enter a score ranging between 0 and 100. Then if the value that is entered is not within the specified range, and error alert, here we specify or we key in the message that will be displayed to inform the user that he or she has entered the wrong data. The style can be stop, can be warning, can be information. In our case, it is stop because we shall not accept any value to be entered if it's not within the required range. And the message to be displayed is you have entered wrong score or wrong score has been entered. Wrong entry. Let me even change it to wrong entry. And then the message is kindly enter a score ranging between 0 and 100. Then from there, we click on OK. Later on, if you want to remove the entire criteria, you click on clear all. So in this case, then we click on OK. Now let's see what will happen. Let's see. When I click, if I want to enter a score, like in cell D3, once I click on cell D3, you can see the message. Required score, enter a score ranging between 0 and 100. So I can enter 45. Then OS, I can enter 45. And SP, I can type 89. And the CSK, I can type 120. And then you can see already a message has been displayed. The initial message was required score should be between 0 and 100. But after entering 120, you can see an error message has been displayed. Wrong entry. Kindly enter a score ranging between 0 and 100. So you click on retry. And now I can type a figure like 65. And that has been accepted and total has been computed. Then I can enter for the other student like 23. Let me continue entering the values by clicking on a cell and entering a score. So you can continue with your scores that you want by clicking on a cell, type your value. Good. You can see I have made a wrong entry. I have typed letter E as the score for Jasper Olo for ICT. And I'm being told that kindly enter a score ranging between 0 and 100. And I had already been guided that the required score should be ranging between 0 and 100. So click on this error message, try, and then I can type the correct figure. My dear students and the rest of the learners, you can see the importance of validation or input. It's as powerful as that. So validation is key because it helps you avoid wrong data from being entered in the cells. You can see I have made another wrong entry by typing a score called meme. How can you have a score called meme? It's impossible. There's no such a score. And we have gotten an error message, wrong entry. Kindly enter a score ranging between 0 and 100. So click again on retry and I type another figure. Then I can click on a cell. You can see I have made another error. I've entered a period. as a score. For Jasper, that's an error. So I have to click on retry and type the correct score. Then I can enter scores for the other student. Like that. Good. So we have been able to have entry of scores that are ranging between 0 and 100. Assuming I type a 0, like if Mary got a score of 0 in ICT, let's see if 0 will be accepted. 0. You can see 0 is accepted. We can now save our work by clicking on Save button. And that's how we set the input validation. That's how we validate our input so as to avoid wrong entry being done. And with that, we have come to the end of input data validation. You can now continue to part 17 of 18 on charts and graphs in a worksheet. Congratulations for learning part 16 of 18 on validating input data in a worksheet. You can access other parts in Applying Spreadsheet series, as well as other computer or ICT videos by clicking or tapping on MLSWAP ICT YouTube channel below this video. To subscribe to the channel, tap on subscribe button below this video in YouTube if it's not currently reading as subscribed. For any further correspondence, kindly write to us through the email emilyswap@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening to me. Let's meet in part 17 of this series, and God bless.